every now and then, it's helpful to reflect on why the questions raised in this course matter. Why should we study the history of 13.8 billion years? Firstly, it provides a framework for knowledge that we can then flesh out with our studies into specialized subjects, and also the knowledge we gain from our personal experiences. We can see the connections between everything we learn and know where it fits into the cosmic tale. Big history encompasses the totality of all human knowledge about our origins that we have discovered thus far, and accordingly, it forms a place to embed everything we learn in our lives. It starts from the very beginning of space and time, and describes how complexity has increased since then, and it forms a story that can embrace the knowledge from any discipline, any time period, and any subject. If all human knowledge were some vast mountainous terrain, then big history allows you to locate yourself on the map of that terrain at any given time. Secondly, learning the history of the universe and the part we play in it can be a transformative experience. We learn that every individual human is made of matter and energy that has been around since the very beginning of the universe, 13.8 billion years ago, and has merely changed form. We learn that all life on Earth descends from a universal common ancestor. We learn how relatively recently our own species arrived on the scene, and how closely connected people of all nations, creeds, and classes are in our common story. As the world grows more tightly knit into one global system in the 21st century, a common history that unites us all, and also allows us to turn our gaze toward the rest of the universe, is something that is direly needed. Thirdly, big history encourages transdisciplinarity on an unprecedented scale. If you study the connections between science and the humanities, you unify in your own mind what C.P. Snow referred to as the two cultures, those modes of thought that investigate natural phenomena and those that investigate the societal and individual aspects of humanity. Often these two cultures are on the opposite sides of campus or in different books on the other side of the library. For generations now, more and more disciplinary boundaries have been drawn between different subjects and specializations, making it more and more of a daunting task to weave them into one big picture and a unified way of viewing the world. Both science and the humanities have something in common. Science is in many ways historical. Every time you look into the night sky, you are essentially looking into the past, viewing the light of stars that shone thousands and sometimes millions of years ago. Scientists of many backgrounds search the heavens for evidence to weave together a narrative of the expanding cosmos. Every time you dig up a fossil or date the age of a rock on Earth, you are using evidence to flesh out another part of the timeline of the Earth's geological history, or the fascinating march of the evolutionary epic. Similarly, by looking at documents from the Middle Ages or digging up human artifacts from ancient times, you are finding evidence that fleshes out the narrative of our human past. When we investigate politics or media, we are looking for evidence to flesh out the narrative of our own times. In both the case of science and the humanities, we have theorists who try to interpret that evidence. Often interpretations differ, but theorists still endeavor to arrive at the clearest picture of how phenomena in nature and human society came to be, to enhance our understanding of how things work, enabling us to innovate, to make each other's lives better, and to tackle the problems of the future. Fourthly, transforming the story of 13.8 billion years into a framework for knowledge gives us a great deal of practice in thinking critically. In order to arrive at a clear picture of what Douglas Adams called life, the universe, and everything, we have to take a hard look at claims of knowledge that are put to us every single day on every single subject. We have to be careful about what claims we accept and what claims we reject. In order to do that, we have to reflect on the process by which we make those crucial judgments. Sometimes we have access to hard evidence. Sometimes we must rely on our own keen sense of logic. Sometimes we do not have access to evidence or even a deep understanding of the subject, so we must place our trust in the authority of experts. And sometimes, more often than you'd think, we go with our gut. All of those approaches are useful in their way and must work in concert, striking an intricate balance. And most importantly, we must constantly update our framework for knowledge as new arguments, new evidence, and new interpretations come to light. Finally, why learn the history of the universe? It's related to the age-old question of why we should bother to learn history in general. As Cicero said in the days of ancient Rome, to not know what happened before you were born is to forever remain a child. History enriches our perspectives and allows us to live 1,000 lives instead of only one. However, Cicero was talking about the histories of a few centuries, the intrigues and battles of several generations of ancestors. The same principle applies, many times over, to learning the biggest of all stories, the longest stretch of time, with a start date that commences 13.8 billion years ago, with the origin of time itself. We get to experience the wondrous transformations of billions of years instead of a single lifetime. And since human consciousness arose from the matter and energy of this universe, every time we investigate big history, we are in many ways the universe looking back on itself, as if contemplating itself in a mirror. We grow wiser the more we look.